Hi everyone, welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Those of you who listen to this podcast regularly will know that on Saturday I was talking about finding your niche, finding who you are in the English speaking world. And if you haven't heard that podcast, I recommend you go back and listen to it. It's called Learn English Fast, Changing Your Mindset. Many of you who come to learn English, you come with a blank piece of paper. You tell me, okay, I want to learn English, teach me. Teach me English, I'm listening, And I have to try to work out what your starting point is. Is it for work? Is it for traveling? Is it because you have a hobby in English? But some of you, you just tell me, I just want to learn English. And I say, okay, but why? And many of you haven't really thought about the answer to this question. Now, the problem is, as I was saying in my last podcast, if you're a sailor and you like to sail across the sea, you don't really need to learn every single thing that's under the water. You just really need to know about your boat and what makes your boat move. You need to know a little bit about your environment, and you also need to know about your destination. Once you're clear on those things, then you can have your journey. You can make your journey. You say, I'll start here, I'll finish here. If I have problems in the middle, I can change my direction. English is the very same. If you come to the ocean and you say, okay, I want to learn to swim, and you jump in right in the middle of the Pacific, you might find it's warm, but you might also find that your swimming skills were not as strong as you thought they were. In fact, you might quickly meet with some sharks. Do they have sharks in the Pacific? Of course they do. We've all seen those Australian video clips where the sharks come and attack the people. My point is this, that without some kind of a knowledge of where you're going, you might get a little bit lost. So you need to be somehow narrowing your expectations down to a very specific area and a very specific niche, especially after you've learned the basics. Now, why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because I'm going to talk now about the future of our podcasts together. When I first started doing these podcasts around 3 years ago, they were simply for entertainment purposes, aimed at B2 and above learners to help you discover new words and new things about British culture. They became fairly popular, especially with my italki students, and then I moved on a little bit and I developed this weekly lesson, which is also there to help you learn new words, things about UK living, and in general, just things about life here in the UK. They've moved on into some kind of storytelling, where you get to hear about experiences of living in the UK. And these things are all very practical. Now, these days, 3 years later, after almost 1,000 podcasts and quite a number of weekly lessons as well, that's something we started, I think, earlier this year, things have changed. We're living in a very different world. Artificial intelligence is able to give you any word you want, and it's the same with grammar. You're able to find grammatical structures that you want at the touch of a button. You don't need me to be explaining these things. And that's why these podcasts now are more about storytelling than they are about learning. I also have my niche and the things that I love. And when it comes to teaching, my first love is motivation. Motivating you to be happy, to be smiling, and to discovering new things. I love seeing people grow, moving on with their lives. I also love to see people learning, that's very true, but I also need to move into my niche and to do the things that I love doing. Currently, there's a daily podcast which is related to our weekly lesson, and I take you through some news stories from around the UK. I love doing that, but unfortunately, there's a few difficulties with that. First of all, the news itself is becoming more and more negative. And as the standard of our media falls, there's less and less stories there which are cheerful or well written for learners. Secondly, there's the question as to whether reading news stories from the newspapers, whether that's really part of my niche. I love entertaining you. Giving you my commentary on the news is fun, but simply reading news and helping you to understand it, that's not really my thing. And again, you can easily ask ChatGPT to take a news story and to summarize it for you using, let's say, B2 level, A1 level, or even moving it up to C1 level. You don't need me for that. So I'm currently looking at how to give you the best podcast experience along with a weekly lesson that you're going to be able to use. And I think at the moment, you're simply getting too much information. It's fun if your English is up to that. And I know that some of you really love hearing my podcasts every day. I'm currently looking at how to serve you better and how to motivate you better. The week after next, we're going to be reaching podcast number 1000. And I think at that point, we need to change our direction a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but probably it's going to be something a little bit different from what we have at the moment. You have a weekly lesson with a daily video clip and a daily podcast. I'm not sure that those two separate things are absolutely necessary. So I'm looking at streamlining or cutting down on my content a little bit. One way I'll be doing that is by looking at my own niche. What brings me joy in teaching and how can I use my strengths and my joys to bring English to you in the best possible way. Now, I haven't made any decisions on that yet. Your feedback would be very much appreciated. And as you know, I don't often leave comments or I don't leave space for comments on my social media. That's because when I do open up the comment section on video clips, I have every conceivable person writing either to complain, to try and sell me something, or to try and tell me that my YouTube videos could be more popular if I just pay one particular person a lot of cash. So what I'll do is I'm going to open up this YouTube video for comments. Okay, I'll probably leave some comments open for the coming days. And if you want to say anything about the future of these videos or of video clips, you have a space to do so. You can also go to teacherjoseph.com and you can put in there any comments you want and send them to me. If you don't want to do that, you can wait for your next English lesson and just tell me what you think. There's no right or wrong answers. But it's looking a bit like you're getting too much information. It's kind of news stories about all different topics. And one problem I have with that is it's very difficult to try to tell YouTube what my video clip is. Is it for English learners to improve their vocabulary? Is it a news story for the whole world to enjoy? Is it just one of these eccentrically British podcasts? So I need to begin putting our video clips into a very particular niche so that I can hashtag it properly, get more students coming to look at it. Remember, it's not monetized. So I'm not doing this to make money out of it. I've never made even 1 penny from YouTube, but I do need to be making the best use of my time as well as the best use of your time as well, just to make sure that we are all learning, moving forward, and I'll also be focusing more on the things that I like, which I know that some of you of a certain age do too. Looking back at years gone by, things that you may have remembered, and of course, motivating you all into speaking better English. So I'm currently looking at my whole strategy of teaching. Probably the weekly lesson's going to stay at least, well, what that looks like or what the podcasts are going to look like. It may mean there'll be less of them, or it may simply mean that they'll be shorter. Who knows? It's your big chance to tell me what your expectations are. And remember, if you don't give me feedback, then you may be surprised at what's left. So please do take a moment to leave a comment or to tell me what you want, because otherwise I'm not going to know. Now, podcast number 1000 is coming up, I think, around Christmas time, and that's a perfect opportunity to lay down some redirection to see exactly where we're going. And so I'm currently looking at how we'll do that from the beginning of the year. So maybe we can relaunch from the beginning of January or somewhere in there, just with a little bit of a different direction. So we'll see what happens. But please, comments, feedback, welcome. and I'll make sure there's a space for you to leave comments on this video clip as well. All right, so take care, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.